Many people dream of starting their own family, having children they can call their own and guide through the world. But one family got it twisted when a few children became hundreds of children.
That was me and my whole age group and the one above.
The joys of raising a family weren't a priority. These fathers cared too much about who would become their next wife.
Who said I have 20 wives and 80 children?
And the search for love was often targeted towards very young women, often for the purpose of self-gratification. Many of the wives and children are speaking up.
He wasn't telling me the truth?
Not in all instances, no, that is not the truth.
Both of the other brother and sister have different moms and the same dad.
And court hearings have taken place. Let's uncover the disturbing truth behind the Blackmores. In November 2020, a young man named Merlin Blackmore posted his first TikTok. What could have been a blip amongst the millions of TikToks uploaded every day suddenly went viral. Why? Because his shocking family story sent people reeling.
I was born into a polygamous cult in Canada, and I have 150 siblings. This picture right here that you see, that's my dad and 21 babies. That was me and my whole age group and the one above.
Soon after Merlin posted his TikTok, two other brothers, Murray and Warren, joined Merlin and shared parts of their own stories, and some of those videos got some major attention.
We've been around for a long time. There's 150 of us. It's just now the kids are starting to talk about it.
And brought on more and more questions from an interested audience.
This is a question that I've been getting a lot lately, is how did we afford to feed everybody?
Through the power of TikTok, these three brothers revealed secrets about their unusual upbringing and exposed one of the most controversial families in Canadian history. But how did a family like this exist in the first place? In order to fully understand this, we need to go back in time. Before we go any further, it's important to give a few basic definitions that will help us understand what's going on. The Blackmores are a polygamous family that was formerly part of the Fundamental Church of Latter-day Saints, or the FLDS. Polygamy usually refers to a man having multiple wives, and, at least in North America, is typically rooted in religion. It's also relatively rare. The FLDS is a religious sect that broke away from the mainstream Mormon church over 100 years ago and practices polygamy, or plural marriage as it's often called. It has about 10,000 members spread out across North America, but mainly concentrated in Arizona and Utah. The spiritual leader is considered a prophet and is the only one allowed to perform marriages. The prophet can also punish members by reassigning spouses to other members. As for the Blackmores specifically, their story begins in July 1886, where Mormon church elder Charles O. Card was arrested and charged with polygamy. He became a fugitive and escaped to Alberta, where he formed what would eventually become Cardston, Alberta. In 1945, one of the leaders of what would become the FLDS came to Cardston to recruit more members. Harold Blackmore, a local teacher and dairyman, was one of the first people to convert. The next year, Harold purchased land in Lister, British Columbia, and what would later become Bountiful, British Columbia. He moved there with his wife and children and soon after married his second wife, who was his first wife's sister in a celestial marriage in Utah. In 1953, Harold's brother Ray joined him in Lister, but soon afterwards ousted Harold as leader. And later, in 1984, Ray's son Winston Blackmore was sworn in as the FLDS bishop for Bountiful. This is where all those kids come in, 150 to be exact. But how does a family like that even function? Let's take a closer look at their family life through the eyes of their children and their TikToks. For the Blackmores, life has always been a little different. Let's start with the plural wives. In a 2003 interview with the CBC program The Fifth Estate, one of the only in-depth media interviews he's given, Winston Blackmore himself didn't seem comfortable discussing his unusual personal life, but he did reveal some telling information.
So how many wives do you have?
I have enough so that I don't have to worry about anybody else's. I have agreed to say that I have more wives than one.
Merlin had a more direct answer when he was asked the same question.
In all, There were 27 different women that married my dad.
But one sticky situation that can come up when discussing plural marriage can be the ages of the wives relative to the age of the husband. Back in 2003, Winston said he didn't know of any underage wives.
There's been nobody getting married at 14 to my knowledge. There has been at 15, but they have to have their parents' consent and they have to have a reason, you know.
But one of his wives, Jane Blackmore, had a different answer.
What is the youngest that you know of a girl getting married?
14.
As well, you might be wondering where Winston finds the time to spend with all of his wives. In an interview from Global News' 16 by 9, Winston said that wasn't a major concern.
There's plenty of women in the world that one night in that month is too many.
However, at least one of his wives, Ruth, revealed the neglect from her husband was too much to bear in later court testimony.
I was pregnant for the 7th time. I was doing this again all by myself. I wanted a relationship, and he pretty much said outright that he definitely would not work on a relationship with any one of us.
In a comment on a YouTube video covering the Blackmores, one person was confused as to how a polygamous marriage could work. How can you love 15 women? How can you love 130 children? How can you know their names, their favorite foods, their ages, favorite colors? You can't. Merlin also seemed to confirm this in a TikTok comment. I talked to my mom. I've never had a relationship with my dad. It's also worth noting that at least one of his daughters, Dana, said she was not interested in practicing polygamy herself, and Winston's cousin, Brenda Jensen, testified at a later trial, revealing some disturbing accusations.
We were terrified of you. You were going to rape us, the men were going to rape and steal our children and steal us and rape all the women and murder husbands, and it was horrible. You guys were horrible.
What about the kids' experience? According to Merlin, his dad started having kids at an early age.
So my dad was 20 years old when he had his first kid, and 62 years old, turning 63 4 months later when he had his 150th kid.
You heard that right.
150th kid.
Why so many? Merlin gave a very interesting reason.
So in 2017, Canada celebrated its 150th anniversary, and my dad wanted to have 150 kids by the end of Canada's 150th anniversary. By mid-2016, he had 145 kids, and by the end of 2017, he had 149 kids, falling one kid short of 150. He still wanted to hit the 150th kid mark though, so 2 years later, he had one more kid, and he hasn't had any more kids since then.
Given the large number of children being born, the family had to take action to cut through some of the legal red tape, as Murray Blackmore explained.
I guess after my parents had their 100th kid, they decided to keep a file of blank baby registration forms. I guess for easy access.
As you might imagine, there were many kids born in the same year, like the year where 12 kids were born. Some kids even had the same birthday.
And I figured out that out of 150, 50 of my siblings share birthdays. And out of those 50, there are 3 different groups of 3 that all share a birthday.
While, surprisingly, the family had no multiple siblings like twins and triplets, they did have their own versions of twins and triplets.
So when I was born, I was actually born with a brother and sister my same age on the same day, making me a triplet, except both of the other brother and sister have different moms and the same dad.
And how does that break down to brothers and sisters?
So after I counted, I realized that I have 78 sisters and 71 brothers.
Merlin has also done viral TikToks where he revealed the years each kid was born.
So the first kid was born in 1976, 81, and the last kid was born in 2019.
And the ages as of recording the video.
44, 42, 41, 39, 37, 37, 35, 35, 33, 32, 55, 54, 33, 33, and the last kid is 1.
Which made it even more surprising when Merlin revealed this.
So my family used to be a part of the FLDS church, but in 2002, after Rulon Jeffs died, Warren Jeffs took control of the FLDS and he excommunicated my dad and his family. But one of my sisters stayed in the FLDS church, and I have never met her before, or up to this day even seen her before. So apart from that one sister, I have met all of the rest of my siblings.
As well, every kid had a unique name.
Out of all 150 kids, not one kid has the same first name. A lot of the kids have same middle names, but none of them have the same first name.
But with so many siblings, how do they celebrate birthdays?
The birthday parties were actually pretty normal. So it wasn't like 150 people show up to every person's birthday party. It was more as your closest friends and the kids that are the closest in age would come to your birthday. And then like everybody wouldn't get each other birthday presents either. It was mainly your biological siblings that got you birthday presents, and your closest friends got you birthday presents. Sometimes if there was a whole bunch of birthdays that were all really close together, then we would celebrate them all as one big party.
And is it even possible to remember everyone's name?
If I was to see them in person, I could put a name to their face. But if I was trying to name them all off the top of my head, well, I cannot do that. You gotta be a superhero to be able to do that.
With all of these kids, how were the adults able to care for them? Merlin shared some interesting information about the family's finances.
So the way that we paid for everything, it was actually more of a group effort. So all of the kids who could go to work would, all of the moms who could work would, and my dad would work every single day. I had to start going to work when I was 11 years old, and the same thing happened with a lot of my siblings. And let me tell you, it was not easy work. Clothing-wise, the older siblings got new clothes, and then it went on for decades of hand-me-downs.
Warren Blackmore also spoke about the family's gardens.
We have massive gardens where we grow carrots, green beans, corn, potatoes, tomatoes. You name it, we probably grew it. My summers were filled with a ton of gardening vegetables, picking weeds, and canning fruit.
Murray shared more about the family cellar and how the Blackmores preserve their food to make it last longer. As for schooling, the school in Bountiful only educates kids up to sophomore year in high school. In 2003, Winston, the school administrator, in addition to being the bishop, said he was fine with the school system.
I would like my children to stop at grade 10, have an opportunity to go work for a little while, and if they want to go back to school, they'll go back as a mature student who will get something out of high school.
But his wife Jane disagreed with that assessment.
I have 6 children out in the workforce, and at least 4 of those 6, they cried when they had to quit school. They wanted to go to school.
In a YouTube comment posted on a video about the Blackmores, one person shared more details about life in Bountiful. As someone who used to live in Bountiful, Winston Blackmore is actually my cousin, and this does not show the whole story. Many children, girls especially, are not given an education past 1st or 2nd grade. Girls do not get to decide whether they marry or not. In Winston's family too, you're eligible once you're 14. And you marry when and who the bishop tells you. If you don't agree, you are excommunicated. And if that's all you've ever known and believe you'll be damned, it's not a question you even consider. There is no choice for young girls. I left Bountiful in 2011, and it was not modern. All girls are not allowed to cut their hair, and it must be kept up. You had to wear long dresses. Winston is a liar. Almost everything he said in this video was a lie. The bit about girls? I should know, one of them was my sister. About the education? This guy's a crook. The family may have its issues, but they seem to have a system that, for the most part, works well. So it's all hunky-dory, right? Well, not always. While there are some modern polygamous families that are healthy, loving, and functional, we can't ignore the downsides of polygamy for many of the people who have experienced it, particularly in its more traditional conservative form. One key issue is the mental health of one of the wives involved.
13 wives in this picture. How many of them are still here?
8 of them.
8. 8 of 13 are still here?
Yeah.
According to a 2013 study examining women living in plural marriage, the results generally suggest mental health issues were more prevalent in polygamous women than monogamous women. Individual studies report a higher prevalence of somatization, depression, anxiety, hostility, psychoticism, and psychiatric disorder in polygamous wives, as well as reduced life and marital satisfaction, problematic family functioning, and low self-esteem. In January 2006, a study released by the Justice Department and Status of Women Canada, consisting of 4 papers, came to differing conclusions. One paper from 3 law professors at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, argued that Canada should legalize polygamy and that Canadian law should change to help the women currently living in plural marriages with common issues like inheritance rights and spousal support. However, another study from the Alberta Civil Liberties Research Centre argued that British Columbia should prosecute the leaders in Bountiful. As we can see, more research is needed to determine what the best approach would be to help protect the women and children involved in polygamy. Another related issue is that can occur in some fundamentalist polygamous sects. In 2005, The Guardian published an article examining the dark side of polygamous sects in America. James Harmston, the then leader of the True and Living Church of Jesus Christ of Saints of the Last Days, allegedly threatened his youngest wife Rachel with fire and brimstone for refusing to be intimate with him. Rachel, the facts are, whether you want to believe it or not, the end is coming and judgment will be executed in severity, especially for those who have broken their covenants. For certain, I will deal with you in the future eternity. He allegedly sent copies of that letter to 5 of his 18 wives, including Rachel's mother. Rachel claimed she was taught that James Harmston was the reincarnation of the founder of the Mormon Church from a very young age, essentially being into doing what he wanted, including becoming his wife and being intimate with him. She said, "He says and witness of the Holy Ghost are the same thing. Sex is the whole thing for him." And that's just one example of what some of these women experience. So it's clear to see why there are concerns about the treatment of these women within these polygamous sects. And some of these dark actions led to the fracture, divide, and downfall of the Blackmore family. In 2002, Rulon Jeffs, the FLDS leader at the time, signed an order removing Winston Blackmore as a trustee. Rulon's son Warren took over as leader after Rulon passed away. Within 6 months of Rulon's passing, Winston was excommunicated from the FLDS, removed from the board of Bountiful Schools, and his children and the children of those who support him were forced to leave the school. However, Winston claimed he left the FLDS on his own. In any case, Winston was also no longer the Bishop of Bountiful. Warren Jeffs installed James Oler as bishop in his place. This shift in leadership divided the community in Bountiful, and over half of the community left with Winston as he created his own polygamous faction. In spring 2004, Debbie Palmer, the third wife of Winston's father, along with several other people, filed a complaint with the British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal about what was happening at Bountiful. In June 2004, the British Columbia Civil Liberties Association and the British Columbia Attorney General called on the RCMP to investigate Bountiful. The BCCLA put particular emphasis on allegations of and allegations that racism was being taught in the schools. In April 2005, Winston held a polygamy summit in Creston, British Columbia, and invited the attorneys general from Idaho and British Columbia. They did not attend. Winston also made headlines for revealing that his son allegedly married a 14-year-old girl and that he had married several underage girls. This was in direct contrast to when he told the CBC he did not know of any underage girls marrying older men. Around this time, 15 of Winston's wives attended a conference in Winnipeg, Manitoba about enclosed communities. The wives also made national news when they asked the federal government to raise the age of consent from 14 to 16. In May 2006, Warren Jeffs was placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list, and 3 months later, in August, Warren was arrested outside Las Vegas. In December 2006, Winston appeared on CNN's Larry King Live, where he again admitted to marrying several underage girls. In January 2009, Winston Blackmore and James Oler were arrested and charged with 1 count of polygamy each. According to Winston's indictment, he has 19 wives, 9 of whom were under the age of 18. James's indictment said he had 2 wives. In September 2009, a British Columbia Supreme Court judge dismissed the charges against Winston and James. The judge ruled the province's attorney general did not have the authority to appoint more than 1 special prosecutor to investigate the case after the previous special prosecutor recommended not charging Winston and James. In February 2014, Winston voluntarily gave a deposition in an unrelated case without a lawyer present. He once again admitted to marrying 10 women who were under the age of 19. 3 of those girls were 15 and 1 of them was 16. In August 2014, Winston was again charged with 1 count of polygamy. James Oler was charged with 1 count of polygamy and 1 count of unlawful removal of a child for purposes. In February 2017, Winston's brother Brandon Blackmore and his former wife Gail Blackmore were found guilty of taking a girl across the border for sexual purposes. According to records used in the charges, the Blackmores brought a 13-year-old girl across the border to marry Warren Jeffs, who is now serving a life sentence in Texas.
Audio tapes released during his trial paint a haunting picture.
The woman is a comfort, helps remove me through that.
James Oler was found not guilty of the same charge, as the judge was unable to prove James brought a different girl across the border to enter into a polygamous marriage. In July 2017, Winston and James were found guilty of polygamy. In August 2017, Brandon and Gail were sentenced to jail time. Brandon was to serve a year, and Gail was to serve 7 months. They are also both ordered to serve probation after their jail sentences. In June 2018, Winston was sentenced to 6 months house arrest, as well as community service and probation. For some of us, finding true love is like looking for a needle in a haystack, but for Winston, love was available left and right. How he found these women is questionable and may even be illegal. The number of children one man has is shocking and makes you wonder what the end goal was. Ultimately, he isn't able to be there for everyone in his family. As of this time, Winston is no longer under house arrest and no one knows what he's up to now. This is the story of a man who believes his life path was chosen for him by religion.
Back in those days, we did what we were directed to do.
Until more family members speak up, this is all we know about Winston Blackmore, the man with 150 children.